We finally got to talk to Jonathan Gannon today.
Yeah, and he knew it was coming, and he's got experience with this from the first half of last year.
Too much, yeah.
Yeah, too much. He came out. It was interesting. He came out. Usually Gannon will sit down and he'll answer questions. He actually made an opening statement, which is a little preemptive strike by him.
Yeah.
Kind of saying, "Look, I know we sucked, and here's what we got to do better." So you give him credit for that, but. You got to go out and do it. They got to go out and do it against a pretty darn good Vikings offense. We'll talk about in a few minutes. But we talked to him for a good 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, and we'll kind of go through what he said. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. He's Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. Talked to Gannon, Michael Clay, Shane Steichen, the three coordinators on this team, and got some decent answers. But Gannon was the big draw on Tuesday, and that's going to happen when you win a game that was pretty close. It shouldn't have been close at the end. The offense does everything in their power, and the defense really kind of let the team down. It wasn't good enough, and it was really disappointing after talking this defense up all summer and saying they have all this talent now, no excuses, and then week one for them to play like that wasn't great.
Yeah, and for me, the worst part about it, and there's a lot of issues. It's not just one thing, which kind of makes it a little scarier. It's not like you just have to fix one thing and the defense will be better. There's a lot of work to do. But it seemed, and I think we touched on this post game, it seemed like they had things under control. Early in the third quarter, it seemed like both sides of the ball, after a slow start, had kind of settled in, and they were, I thought it was gonna be a blowout. I remember I said to one of the guys in the studio, I was like, this is going to end up being 44-6 again.
Yeah.
And it was the opposite. And I asked Gannon today if his guys got gassed. He said, yeah. He said, I don't think it was a conditioning issue, but when you're on the field for 3 straight or 72-yard or longer drives, it was 3 out of 4 possessions Detroit had. They drove 70 or more yards.
To be clear, Gannon is not like a victim in this. The way they play defense lends itself to those long drives.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy there.
No, there's no question about it. But that's concerning to me. You shouldn't get gassed when you're rotating. You're already rotating the guys up front. That's a little worrisome. And I just did not like what I saw from the D line. And he's not going to call out any players. He won't even call out position groups. But, he did say, obviously tackling has to be better. I think I would say that's probably the biggest issue
That's the easiest issue to identify.
Yeah.
That slaps you in the face. But I think some of their tackling issues are schematic.
I also think when you're not in shape, or I think when you're not in shape, you're out of position to make tackles too.
Yeah, and they were out of position. There were some bad angles. I think a lot of the run fits made it tough. So I think some of that's on him. Yeah. Honestly, when I went through my position grades for Monday morning, I was probably a little more lenient than people expected on some of the position groups because I felt like they weren't set up to succeed in that game. And that's on Gannon. And he's got to figure it out because and some of them I think will be fixed naturally. Like CJ Gardner-Johnson's learning how to play safety. So, and he has a skill set to do it, but the angles are different when you're deeper. So I think that I'm not too worried.
He was one of the guys I thought was gassed too. I thought he had a great first half.
Yeah.
But he played 67 out of 69 snaps.
Yeah, he played a lot. And so I think that will naturally fix itself. Some of these other issues need hands-on correction.
Yeah. What's your biggest concern on the defense?
I think my biggest concern is them not marrying all the elements of what this scheme is supposed to be. It was very disjointed, and a part of that was Jordan Davis. He didn't play enough. He played 22 snaps, and I don't expect him to play, 50, 60 snaps. That's too much for him, but he shouldn't play less than Marlon Tuipulotu. And that's not a knock on Marlon, who had the best pressure of the entire game.
Which should never happen either. But
but hey, no, I give him credit. That was
good for him.
Great play.
But he should never have the best pressure.
Yeah. And he shouldn't play more than Jordan Davis.
Yeah.
And the problem here is that, at least the way I view it, most of Jordan Davis's snaps came in the odd front. They came in that bare front as the nose tackle. And that's okay, but you're probably not going to just like switch your defense to that all the time. They want to be multiple. Only 4 of his 22 snaps, at least by my count, came in a 4-man front. And on that first drive, you saw them rotate to the second group, and they took Fletcher and Javon Hargrave off the field, and they put Tua Pelotu and Milton Williams out there. I couldn't believe it. You just traded up to get this guy. He can't be just a situational run-stuffing player. Like, he has to be out there in 4-man fronts. And that was my question again. It was, can he do this? Is he ready to do, like, if he's not, then there's a problem.
If he's not, they shouldn't have drafted him. I still think, and we talked about this on Thursday last week. I think we both said he would play. We thought he played 25 to 30 snaps somewhere in there. But I also think as the game is going on, there's a reason you have quality control guys upstairs. Like, look, this Davis isn't playing enough. Like, you got to get the word. Somebody up there's got to get the word to Gannon and the coaching staff and Tracy Rocker, whoever it is. Jordan Davis has got to play more. He's, and the whole thing about him was he's in such better shape than he was in at Georgia when you could understand why he wasn't playing all that many snaps. He just wasn't, he couldn't handle the physical. He's talked about it. He's in great shape now. Lost a lot of weight. He's really physical, really fit. And I don't think did he miss a practice training camp? I don't think he missed a practice that I remember. And 22 snaps is just not enough. And as the game's going on and you're having these run defense problems, that's when somebody, whether it's quality control guy, whether it's Tracy Rocker, he's a D-line coach, whether it's Gannon himself, whether it's Nick Sirianni, somebody's got to say, look, Jordan Davis has to play more. You can't wait until you look at film when you get home from Detroit. Yeah,
and you're getting gashed by the run. You just drafted the best run stuffer in college football.
Yeah.
It seemed like a pretty simple fix to me, and they didn't do it. And look, part of it's a legitimate excuse at some level was that the Lions stuck with the run longer than the Eagles anticipated when they had a big lead.
Right.
And that's true. I give credit to the Lions for that because most teams would say, we got to drop back and pass. And that's what the Eagles are hoping for because then they
have Jared Goff for crying out loud. But I think, and they also have a new offensive coordinator. So, Eagles defensively didn't know, they'd never seen what he was all about.
Yeah.
So I think that's an issue too. But still, as it's clear that they're not going to chuck it every snap, you adjust.
Yeah.
I'd rather have Jordan Davis out there when Jared Goff is throwing every down than have him off the field when they're running every down.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot to fix here. He said he was happy with how they use Hassan Reddick. Okay.
I'll tell you what, I'm really concerned about pass pressure. And I wrote about this before the game that on Sunday that I know on paper Reddick's had a couple double-figure sack seasons. He's in a more comfortable position, supposedly. He had 10 sacks his last year in Arizona, 5 were in one game. He had 6 sacks the first, I think, 5 games of last year. Then he had 4 the rest of the season. He's never been a guy. There's a reason he's on his 3rd team in 3 years. And look, it's one game. I certainly haven't given up on him. But I just don't think it's like a slam dunk lock that he's going to go out and get you 12 to 15 sacks. And, I just didn't see any pressure from him. Sweat got a couple pressures. I didn't see much from BG. None of those guys to me, whether it was Hargrave, Fletcher, BG, and Reddick, I just didn't see him. I mean, Reddick made one play on a running play. A guy had a tackle for loss. It was a nice play. But as far as pressure, as far as collapsing the pocket, and the Lions have a really good O-line. They were missing their right guard who helped the Eagles win a Super Bowl 5 years ago, Big V. But, this is one of the highest paid D-lines in the league. This D-line is supposed to be the heart of this defense, and it wasn't. And those guys are not young.
The one thing with Reddick I do want to point out is he was going against Sewell for a while.
Yeah, he was. Game, he's really, really good.
He's very good.
But you're also paying him, $50 million a year to make plays against the best.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Guys. So
I'm less concerned about Reddick. I think he'll figure it out. I just, there were a few times where they had him as a stand-up, like a inside linebacker kind of on a blitz. And we saw them do that in camp, and I think they're going to mix it around. He's best when he's on the edge. And sometimes I worry that they're overthinking things at times.
That's fair. Yeah.
So just find what they do best and let them do it.
Yeah, I think I might just be so like this team hasn't been able to rush the passer in so long. They were good as a group in 17. I didn't have anybody. I might have been Fletcher I think led the team in sacks that year. I think BG had like eight or nine. Chris Long. I mean, they were pretty good rushing the pass. They didn't have anybody with a ton of sacks, but it's been so long since they've rushed the quarterback. And Jared Goff. I mean, they sacked him 6 times last year. Mm-hmm. I know it's a different O-line, but he's a sitting duck back there. And they let him freaking scramble for a first down. Look, I have a lot of concerns.
Whose ankles did he break? Was that Avante?
Yeah.
That was a rough look. Now that they won, that's going to be a rough film watch in the DB room.
Yeah, that will be.
For that play.
And Darius Slay had a chance to really put a stop to all the bleeding.
With that pick.
With that pick.
Make it.
Got to make that play if you're an all-pro.
Yeah, I'm not super concerned about the secondary.
I'm not either. But that is a play that could have ended all the.
Yeah. And look, as much as we talked up how good of a training camp TJ Edwards had,
didn't play well.
But
I agree about the secondary, and I think as Chauncey Gardner-Johnson gets more comfortable, gets in better condition, he's going to be really good. I think. I like the way I thought Epps was one of the few guys who played really well throughout the game. Maybe a play or two.
I had one missed tackle. I remember that.
I mean, everybody had a missed tackle, but yeah,
that's true.
But I'm really not that concerned about the secondary. Nakobe Dean, really ballyhoo draft pick. What did he play? 3 snaps on defense?
3 snaps. One was, I remember 2 of them. Maybe he got 2 at the goal line.
Yeah.
And the other one was, it looked like Kaiser did something and he needed off.
Yeah. So I don't know how much help he can give him right now, but I'd like to see him be a factor.
Yeah, well, the one positive I saw in this game was some of those blitzes were working.
Yeah.
They kind of went away from it a little bit. They
built a big lead. I don't know if you want to blitz when you're up by 17.
But that kind of speaks to the passive style of defense they play under Gannon. Like you take your foot off it a little bit.
Yeah, but all it takes is one blitz to give up a 70-yard touchdown.
You get it.
Up 17, I get it. Up 10, I might blitz.
Yeah.
But I thought they did well. I thought Avante had some good blitzes early.
I like him in that role. He's a good blitzer. And that was great rotation.
Carter Johnson did too.
I like that rotation from Epps. He was like a missile on that one play. And then they had the zero blitz a couple plays later that did its job.
I think Kaiser we'll see Kaiser blitz. I think I saw one.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before. I think that's an opportunity for Nakobe too.
Yeah.
I think he's a good blitzer. I think you can't tip it by having him out there, but if you get him some snaps, I think he can give you that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, they have an elite offense coming in. It's at home. That'll help. They won't have to, won't have to be playing away in a dome, but that's certainly a concern. This is a huge game, I think, for Jonathan Gannon and his defense.
Yeah, I agree.
This is,
not an easy one.
I don't think Kirk Cousins is. I don't think he's an elite quarterback, but he's an elite talent. I mean, he can really put up numbers, and he can. I mean, the ball comes out quick.
He's better than Jared Goff.
Oh yeah,
that's all you need to know.
Yeah, that's not even close. So this is a big test. I'm really curious to see how they respond.
Yeah, and this game feels, early in this, you go through the games, and this was like, probably win. Tough game now.
I picked it as a loss in my week by week, just because I didn't see him going 4-0.
Yeah, and
I don't see him losing the next 2. So even now, I don't see him losing the next 2. So we'll do our picks on Thursday, but it's a tough game.
It's a tough game. The only other thing I wanted to talk about on defense, Derek Barnett, out for the season with a torn ACL. No matter what you think about Barnett, it's a blow to their depth.
It is, and he's had a lot of injuries.
He has. And, Jim Schwartz always used to talk about how tough he was. And the only reason we knew how tough he was because he's hurt quite a bit.
Yeah.
He has a pretty physical style for being a kind of an undersized end.
Yeah. He's a violent player, which I like, but the coaches love him. I mean, the coach is just, one of my favorite guys. I mean, whether it was on Doug's staff but the production really hasn't been there. He always plays hard.
This was a non-contact. It didn't look good when it happened. And then they said he was questionable and he was on the sideline. He was just sitting on the bench. So it seemed pretty clear that it was bad. After the game, I asked him how's the knee? And he always said was I'm blessed. I said, I don't know. What do you mean? He's like, I'm blessed. I guess so.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all relative, but it's a loss.
It is. The next guy up is Teron Jackson, who was inactive Sunday.
Yeah. It'll be Teron Jackson. I think Patrick Johnson might get some more rushes.
Might be in the mix.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're 2 down on the roster now, or they will be as soon as they put Barnett on IR.
Yeah.
He got hurt. He played in the Super Bowl hurt. He had surgery. I think it was a sports hernia.
Mm-hmm.
Then he missed 10 games in 19, I believe, with an ACL. Shoulder, right? It was a shoulder.
Shoulder.
Yeah, it was a shoulder. He had surgery. I was surprised they brought him back. Rotational guy. But yeah, it's depth, and they don't have a lot of it there. There's nobody on the practice squad other than Matt Leo.
Yeah, and it's tricky because they have the defensive ends and then the Sam linebackers. They have 3 Sam linebackers. They had 4 defensive ends. Now they're down to 3. So
they're not interchangeable, but they overlap.
Yeah, and in some ways they're interchangeable. But by defensive end name only, they're down to 3 guys.
Yeah. I think they're going to have to sign somebody. Find somebody who is in a camp, who's in shape. That's where your pro scouts are going to have to come up with a name.
Yeah.
So, get Chris Long out of retirement.
I don't think he's going to do that.
I'm sure.
Ask him.
Yeah.
Who else? Is Stephen Means still around?
Stephen Means business.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about I don't know. Clyde Simmons looked pretty good last time I saw him.
All right. Let's talk about special teams.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Sure.
So we actually have stuff to talk about special teams wise. We talked to Michael Clay, who his unit had a very good day.
Yeah. And showed a lot of improvement. Stephen Means is with the Ravens.
Oh, good for him.
Apparently. And played 28 snaps.
Oh, good
Sunday
for him,
went over the Jets. 9 on special teams. Yeah, he's one of our favorite guys.
Yeah.
Went to the same school as Coyote.
Yeah, Buffalo. And Tyree Jackson. He was teammates with Khalil Mack.
Really? Mm-hmm. We're both like, we can't think of names here.
Yeah. I didn't think we'd get deep into
Buffalo
University at Buffalo.
You know that?
The
University at Buffalo.
At Buffalo. So not of Buffalo, Buffalo.
The first time I went to Buffalo for an Eagles game, I think it was the game where, gosh, this is going to be one of those one-eye stories. It was the game that Randall threw that touchdown, the 91-yard touchdown to Fred Barnett when he was he was about to get sacked. He was in the corner of the end zone. It was one of the greatest plays ever. They lost the game. But the next morning it was blizzarding, like just one of those, northwestern New York blizzards. And I had a late flight. I was like, well, I really want to get like a University of Buffalo or University at Buffalo, like hoodie or something. And I have like five hours before my flight. So I drove to the bookstore in this blizzard. It was right by the hotel. And they're open, and I get this really nice hoodie. And I'm driving to the airport, and I realized I'm not on a road. The snow was so bad. I was like driving on the grass on campus. And I was like, I probably shouldn't be out driving. But we did. I did get to the airport, and we actually took off in that snow. It was crazy. Huh. But it was a lot more fun driving back in a car from Buffalo, from Orchard Park with you in the snow, but not that bad. And trying to find somewhere to have dinner and doing a podcast. But anyway.
We went to the worst restaurant on earth.
On earth.
Arby's, we don't want your business. We don't want your read. We don't want it.
I voted for Applebee's. There were only 2 restaurants between Buffalo and Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And I lost.
Yeah.
I also lost my wallet.
Shocker. Special teams.
Yeah.
Two big plays in this game that we probably haven't talked about enough.
Okay.
Zach McPherson on the onside kick, huge play. And then Britton Covey being able to catch that ball on the punt where Zach Pascal's basically in his lap.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought both plays really showed a lot of poise by a young player.
Yeah.
And, I really liked the Pascal play. And Michael Clay told us today that Patrick Johnson, I think he said, was actually – there was a tell, and they saw it, and they knew it was coming, or they knew there was a good chance it was coming. And what did he say that?
On the onside kick, you mean?
On the onside kick.
Okay,
yeah. That their kicker approaches the ball faster, which I can't believe he told us that.
Pace, yeah.
For competitive advantage, but the game's over. But they might play him again.
I don't like your chances of that.
Yeah. But I thought that was really, really great heads up football by both those young players, second-year guys. But just Pascal having the presence of mind to, I think the natural inclination is to look away and to start looking
McPherson.
down. Yeah, McPherson. I'm sorry. Yeah. Zach. Let's just call him Zach. It applies to either one. But also the physical. I asked Michael Clay about just the physical toughness it takes to stand in there. You have two unblocked guys coming at you, and just knowing you're going to get just clobbered there, and secure the ball and go down. And I thought that was a huge play because, they went down and scored. And I didn't really like the onside kick, but goofy Dan Campbell.
It's a fit move.
It's probably a fit move. But Dan Campbell's probably got a, heads up the play. But, and then Covey in his first game. But, and that's why he's out there. He's just so poised. He's so calm and collected.
They have to use one of those spots on him.
They have to, yeah. Have to use one of those spots on him. Because what are you going to do? Week 4, start using Quez back there? I don't think so.
I'd take kick return away from Quez.
Yeah, I would too. Now, you know that Covey can handle whatever they throw at him.
And if that's his only responsibility, let him return both.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Well, I was okay with him just doing punts his first game.
Sure.
But yeah, I think we're at the point where he's got to do both, and the returns will come. But as long as decision making is sound,
yeah. Sometimes the big returns are more about the blockers.
Yeah.
Than if he catches the ball, and the play is set up the way it's supposed to be, he can get some decent chunks.
Yeah, he got an 11, which is you'll take that. You'll take anything double digits on a punt return. So.
My favorite thing we learned today was that on Thursdays when they do punt return, Aaron Moorhead's job is to literally throw stuff at the punt returners.
Just whatever objects he can find around the practice field. Cones, just footballs, gloves, pads.
Yeah.
He's just throwing stuff at the guys to get them to learn how to focus on the ball.
Yeah. And we didn't see that in camp, but we saw and we talked about how silly it was. But how much it told us that they have the one drill where they're holding the football, the punt comes down, you throw the football up, you catch the ball that was punted, then you catch the ball, you throw up. And the only one who did it successfully every time was Britton Covey. He's just his focus and his ability on punt returns is just better than everyone else they had this summer.
Yeah, not even close. Yeah, but they still probably won't tell us that he's the returner. That was like the worst kept secret in history.
Yeah, it was.
Like we all know who's doing it. So, and then, the punter was fine. Mm-hmm. So I think kick return game needs some work, but Michael Clay seemed to agree with that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, like toward the end of the game, it looked like the Lions were angling their kicks to force a return.
Yeah.
I wonder if we'll start seeing some special teams units try to do that against the Eagles.
Yeah.
I would.
Sure. Yeah. So, but all in all, special teams was it was a big concern coming into the season. I like what I saw.
Yeah. Did you think it was a big concern?
Yeah, for me it was.
Really?
Yeah. Just because we didn't the way the punter finished last season.
Yeah, that's still a concern, to be frank.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But it was a good start for him. But the way the punter finished last season, they were in the bottom 5 or bottom 6 in punt and kick coverage and punt and kick return. Mm-hmm. And we didn't know how Covey would. You felt like he'd be okay, but guy had never played before. He's an undrafted rookie. You know the last undrafted rookie to field punts for the Eagles or kicks. Wasn't all that long ago. I believe he did have a punt return touchdown as a rookie.
Return touchdown as a rookie, as an undrafted player.
As an undrafted rookie, but I think the touchdown was his second year. But
I don't know who.
It was at Damaris Johnson.
Oh, I should have known him.
Yeah, Damaris Johnson. He had a pretty good rookie year. Yeah, he had touchdowns. He had 98-yard punt return touchdown. I believe the longest in Eagles history because
he bounced around a little bit after that. He was in Houston for a while. Right?
That's why I thought you'd get it right.
Yeah.
Why are you returning a ball from the 2? A punt. You don't get a lot of 98-yard punt returns, but he went to Houston, played for the Patriots in 15.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So he got himself vested. But he caught a bunch of passes as rookie. He caught 19 for 256, 14 first downs. So caught 31 balls for Houston in 14. Mm-hmm. He was a good little player.
Yeah.
Surprised he didn't last a little longer just as a kind of guy bouncing around.
Or a lot of those guys, to be honest.
He was with the Titans in camp in 16. Yeah. They grow on trees, Dave. They grow on trees. Hey, you deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store at nissanusa.com today.
Any concern about DeVonta Smith not getting a catch?
Not really. I mean, I think we even talked about this. I think I even did a story on it in training camp, how there's going to be games where AJ, I don't know if there's going to be games he doesn't have any catches, but there'll be games where he's 3 for 22. And there'll be games where Goddard. I just think that's the nature of this offense. And it doesn't bother me really because you go with the hot hand. And it did target him 4 times. He caught the one that was negated, I think, by Mulata's penalty holding. But it doesn't bother me. And look, you put up 31 points. You had 455 yards. I think what I like is that these guys, and I think Shane Steichen talked about this, they're really team first guys. It's hard to find a group of skill players that's really unselfish.
Yeah, and we'll see. Maybe that'll get tested at some point. That it's easier to be a team first guy when the team is putting up yards and points and winning. If there's a game, like if they lose this game, I'm sure DeVonta Smith probably feels a little differently about it. And that's not that doesn't make him a bad teammate, but some of these guys, if they feel like, hey, I can help the team win and I'm not getting the ball, then I think it could be a problem.
Yeah, and I think and it might have been your question today, or it might have been to Nick yesterday. Teams are going to, after watching film of
that was my question to Shane today.
That was your question to Shane today. As teams look at film of AJ Brown, they're going to be like, we got to double this guy more. Yeah. It's going to leave DeVonta open more. Yeah,
and I think that's probably their message to DeVonta is your time's going to come because if that's on tape now, and teams are going to have tough decisions to make, and even if they don't double AJ, they're probably going to slide some help that way,
right?
And that is really where, as long as Jalen can get through his reads, you're going to see DeVonta have some big performances.
Yeah, and the one thing you can't do is go into the game saying, all right, we got to get DeVonta touches. I mean, you just got to let the offense flow. And
although I will say I think there's something to the idea of I wouldn't be shocked if we see a very early completion of DeVonta Smith.
Get him an easy
against the Vikings.
Pitch and catch.
Yeah.
I could see that. Yeah, just get him
I think
involved.
There's something to that.
Get his hands on the ball.
And Shane admitted that, as a play caller, he is cognizant of, where the ball's going. He doesn't want Jalen to worry about it.
I like that. That was a good answer.
Yeah, that was actually informative.
Said, I don't want it. He's got enough to worry about.
Yeah. But I'm sure Jalen has some idea.
I wonder. I was wondering about that.
I think
I bet he didn't know he didn't have any catches, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, because there were some targets. He did physically catch a football that didn't count. I think,
yeah. Just knowing Jalen, he's just so focused that I just don't think he would know until somebody told him. But which I think is good. I mean, you can't be focused on that kind of thing. But it doesn't bother me, if it happens again. I mean, he caught a ball every game last year.
Yeah, I went back and looked at that.
Yeah, he caught two in 16 games.
Yeah.
So Goddard's caught a ball in 40 straight. And the next longest streak on the team is 5 straight miles.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because who else is there?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
not only that, this is the second year in a row that their leading receiver from the previous year didn't catch a pass.
Gosh, right.
Fulgham was on a team.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious to see how Quez handles all this.
Yeah. He didn't get a target.
Didn't get a target. Started losing some snaps to Zach Pascal.
Third downs.
He's going to be kind of the lost man in all this. And it's a shame because I think he has more of a ceiling. You know, I think he is a good player who could still theoretically get better, but it's going to be hard to find targets for him.
How many snaps did he play? I was just going to look that up.
I have a game book.
41.
Yeah.
That's a lot of snaps.
It is a lot of snaps, but Pascal got 17.
Yeah, I would think most of those were on third down.
It looked like they were really.
They actually had 17 third downs, right? Something like that. I wonder if he just played every third down. How many third downs did they have? They had 17 third downs. Okay. Might have been Pascal 17 plays. That's a little too predictable, but yeah, I think he's a weapon. I mean, I really like his game, and he's kind of. I mean, he's still a raw player. He's a young kid. He's 23. He's a 6th-round pick, so you don't expect a real polished guy, but man, he can run. So, and I thought he used the middle. I like him in the slot too. So,
that's what I want to talk about a little bit. AJ Brown, how much I use him in the slot, and I asked Nick about that. Was how much
yesterday?
Yeah, on Monday, just about how much they really do move him around. 41% of his snaps came in the middle of the field as a slot receiver in this game.
Yeah.
That's a pretty high percentage. That's a higher percentage than any of his first 3 seasons. I like that. I think he's very dynamic, and he gives them that element of opening the middle of the field where Jalen didn't throw to the middle a whole lot last year.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I was surprised that number was so high. But he really has all the attributes you look for in a slot, you know, as far as toughness and just a sense of space and, you know, catching the ball in traffic. And, but I mean, you get to use the whole field when he's in the slot, and sure worked. He's so good.
He's got everything. Yeah. It's amazing. And we were gushing over him in the last pod, so we won't go too deep in it. The last few pods.
The last 17 pods.
Yeah, but he's just – there's nothing that he's bad at.
Yeah, he's even humble.
Yes, even humble.
Like he's bad at being like a wide receiver diva.
Yeah, we want a little more T.O., right?
It was funny because I was like – I'm sitting there after the game working on my 10 observations, and I'm like I'm trying to think like how good he can be. You know, like, I mean, he signed here, you know, for 4 years. Like, how good can he be by the end? It's like, wait a minute, it's one game. Like, let's not put him up there with.
But you know, if you're talking ceilings,
yeah.
I mean, he can be as good as anyone.
Yeah, that's true. He's just turned 25.
Yeah, he's had a few little injuries in his career. You wonder about that long term, but like, I mean. He can play anywhere in the field. He's a very good route runner. He's very savvy with a lot of the things he does, like the top of the routes.
The late hand stuff is fascinating to me.
He did that on the long ball.
Yeah.
Everything he does is just, he's very good.
That's something I never really thought about before.
Late hands?
Yeah, makes sense.
Guys do it. It's a little like next level because it's, you know, there's a lot of guys just got to do whatever they can do to catch the ball.
Right. But it's just another thing to think about, and he does it so easily.
And he picks up on tendencies of DBs very acutely.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. There are times where he'll kind of undress a player because he'll notice them leaning one way, or he'll get them to lean.
He's a real student of the game. That's one thing I've learned about him since, you know, we started talking to him when he got here. He studies everybody, not just guys that he's about to play, but like during the offseason, he talked about all the different corners he studied. And I mean, he's got a great personality, and he starts talking like deep just about his technique and how he goes about different plays. And I mean, he had that one press conference that I think it was about 3 weeks ago, and he went on and on and on about how he approaches every snap, and he says, I'm giving away all the jewels. I got to stop.
Yeah.
But it was such a fascinating deep dive into just how he prepares for each snap and what he does as the play is going on. Really, really impressive. Look, Deshaun had a great career here. He really did. But I can't wait to can't really compare anybody until we're like well into the season. And this is just one game, but the potential is there to be an all-timer. They got him for a mid-first round pick and a 3.
Yeah.
And the Titans leading receiver,
the contract is a part of it.
Contract's a big part of it, but that's Howie being Howie. They're the Titans leading receiver at 66 yards Sunday. And they lost.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they miss him. Yeah. It's too late.
Too late. Yeah.
Not giving him back.
Early look at the Vikings. What do you think about that team?
I think they're terrific on both sides of the ball. I mean, they beat a Packers team that had lost 12 games over the last 3 years. And
beat them pretty soundly.
Their defense is fast and physical. Their quarterback is capable of putting up huge numbers. They got one of the best receivers in the game. And they also have Justin Jefferson.
How many times are you going to use it?
I'm going to use it until you laugh. No. So that's going to be a fun matchup to watch. So Slay and Jefferson. And
it's funny. I was just looking through.
And they run the ball, too.
Yes,
good running back.
Yeah, pretty good running back. Pretty good running team, which is scary coming off the game we just watched.
Yeah.
I was looking at their game book, and I was like, oh, their starting linebackers are Hicks and Kendricks. Different Kendricks, but yeah, it's like I've seen that before.
Hicks had forced a fumble on a sack.
Mm-hmm.
Hicks made a great play on Rodgers on a blitz. He's a good player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, been a good player for a long time. I mean, their corners. Patrick Peterson's past his prime, but he's savvy. Cam Dantzler is on the other side, I think, and they have Andrew Booth as who I really liked. I don't know if he's I don't know if he's healthy yet.
Yeah.
But they have him maybe on the bench.
Yeah.
The Darius Smith coming off the edge against his former team was lethal.
Yeah.
In that game. So the edge, and they have Danielle Hunter still.
And Cousins is, he hasn't won a ton in the playoffs, but he's a really dangerous player. I think he's done really well again. What was his numbers
in that game?
23, 32, 277 yards, 72%, 2 touchdowns, no picks, long gain of 64 to who. Career passer rating is 98.8. I mean, he's it's top 10 all time. He's been over 100 4 straight years, and the year before that he was 99.7. He hasn't been under 94 since 2014, back when he was with Washington. So he's very consistent, doesn't turn the ball over. Dangerous game. He's only won the one playoff game, right? Yeah, one playoff game in 19 down in New Orleans. So that's the hole in his game, but this is a regular season game.
Thanks.
You're welcome. 34.
We'll get into all the game specific stuff later in the week. But you mentioned Washington. I just wanted to bring this up. Did you see them? Apparently they were selling mugs at FedEx Field.
No.
With the Washington W logo inside an outline of the state of Washington.
You're kidding me.
No. Yeah. Not great.
That kind of reminds me of in Spinal Tap when they had they ordered the giant 12-foot Stonehenge for the stage, and it ended up being a 12-inch high Stonehenge. Yeah. And they're doing that the dance of the druids around Stonehenge, this 12-inch high Stonehenge. That's what that just reminded me of.
Yeah. Everything
reminds me of Spinal Tap, though.
One last thing, Monday Night Football. Did you watch any of that?
Yeah, I did.
What did you think at the end of that game?
What do you mean in particular?
The time management, all leading up to a 64-yard field goal.
Yeah, it was terrible.
What the heck was that?
I think you have a Hall of Fame quarterback on a 4th and 5, was it?
4th and 5.
Yeah.
How in the world?
Put the ball in his hands.
And he had timeouts.
I mean, he's a good kicker. He's got good range.
And they also didn't call it timeout.
It was.
I wasn't watching the Manning cast, but I saw a clip of them like Peyton's just motioning, call a timeout, and they didn't do it.
Yeah.
Really strange. Rough first game for Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah, it really was. And I mean, Pete Carroll's he's a great coach. And I was really impressed with Geno Smith.
Yeah, give credit to Geno.
First opening day start in 8 years, 4 teams ago. That's got to, because he had to be so emotional, but he was just efficient, ran the ball when he had to. He's really accurate.
Yeah.
He played really well. That's a big win for them.
And also really lame to boo Russell Wilson.
That was terrible. The guy,
It's lame.
The guy won a Super Bowl for you.
Yeah.
Like, you can imagine Nick Foles getting booed if he came here for another team. You get freaking, that was.
No matter how it ends, what are you doing?
Yeah, but they complain about, Santa Claus 50 years ago.
Yeah.
It's terrible, but that was embarrassing.
Yeah, I thought so. And they were like, this guy was one of your all-time great players.
Yeah.
You bill him?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Also,
he's a Mount Rushmore guy. I mean, this franchise hasn't been around that long, but Sean Alexander,
I
Jim Zorn
didn't care for that. Sidney Jones.
How about him on his first play in there?
He didn't move. He was in cement out there. He played better after that.
I don't think he knew the ball was snapped. Yeah.
All right, you got anything else?
His hair was on point, though.
I like Sid.
Yeah.
All right. Let's wrap this up. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye Podcast, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. We appreciate it. Wanted to say thank you to some folks who I met in Detroit and flying back. Everyone said hi. I appreciate that. We always love to hear from you guys. That's it. For Rube, I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you next time.